Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the second official TFGO League podcast. I'm joined by my lovely partner here, HawkingRegime. How's it going, man?
It's going well, man. It's the start of season 3. I'm hyped.
Yep. Last time we did this, we had Kamish, Justin with us, but he's no longer here, so it's you and me. Just a few bits of housekeeping here. The TFGO League podcast is brought to you guys by SeatGeek. Offers you the best option for competitive online tickets to sporting events, concerts, and more. Now using the promo code FranchiseGuy, you will get $20 off your first purchase. That's a free ticket to a Browns game, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe your Mariners Hawking. I'm not sure what those tickets are going for out there in Seattle. So head over to SeatGeek.com, promo code FranchiseGuy. That's promo code FranchiseGuy the next time you want to buy some sporting tickets. And then a few more.
Mariners are rolling right now, bro.
They are, man. I sweat my Twins, I'm pretty sure. A few more things. We have a TFGO League YouTube channel. It's got one video up there. It's made by you, actually. The Star Wars recap of the TFGO League. A brief history of our league presented by George Lucas. It's very funny. And then you can follow the league at daddyleagues.com/TFGO. You can follow on Twitter as well at TFGO League, which is also where you guys should go to DM to get on the wait list for the Xbox League. And then also some guys are putting up a PS4 league now with all the same rules. I don't have the time to do that, but we're using everything we do in the Xbox League there. So you can also DM your interest there. Okay. Plugs are done. So the first bit of business here before we get into predictions and picks and stuff is a little question here. Madden 19 coming out. I don't know how much research you've done, Hawking, but what features in Madden 19 that have either been announced or you really want to see that would make the TFGO Sim League experience even better?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that within the league that we have right now, I think it's, for me at least, it's almost surpassed the actual experience of the game. And what I mean by that is I feel like I'm not even playing Madden 18 based on like the rules we put in place. So it's going to be interesting to see if Madden 19 can like just remove a little bit of the manual labor, I guess, we've had to do in the league office and the board, trying to fix the regression and all of those things in the custom draft classes. Basically, literally everything you could think of, from like the player ratings to the actual rules to gameplay, even trying to regulate that. And obviously the big news that we all saw was the custom draft classes, which hopefully will reduce a lot of the stress of us and trying to fix the players we want coming out of the draft classes. I actually don't know the ins and outs of that, so you can talk about that later if you'd like. But that's obviously one. The other big thing for me, just in terms of gameplay, because we could talk about the stuff that like they will actually include in the game, such as some of the things we've discussed in the league, which is having a practice squad for guys that aren't just rookies or first year, second year guys. And but for gameplay, for me, one of the big things that we've kind of tried to mitigate as much as possible with the rules we've put in place is the coverage of defenders, because oftentimes they defy the laws of physics, and that's kind of hard to regulate for us. So if somehow they could make it so that defenders who are at the line of scrimmage, the outside linebackers, don't jump out to cover out routes, or middle linebackers can cover deep digs and drags at the same time without losing any speed or momentum. If they could somehow, I don't think that'll be fixed this year, but if they could just somehow make that a little bit more realistic for player speed, I think that would go a long ways in making the game more realistic and probably a better experience for both teams.
For sure. That brings me back to our very first matchup when you bid on the play action. I think I had about a 10-yard crossing route. Bobby Wagner was probably at the line of scrimmage when I released the football, and he somehow picked the ball off 10 yards downfield. That's, I think, exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we had to move into the situation where we had guys now in strafe, so we had to hold
Yep.
strafe. That's the rule we kind of implemented
Yeah.
basically because of that. We didn't want guys just running out all around the
Yeah,
field. So I
which
think that's a big
and
one.
that's kind of unfortunate because it's something we need, and 90% of the time it's
Hmm.
realistic. But there's times where you would want to break strafe, but you can't because there's rules to be
Yeah,
followed. But yeah, if the game could fix some
yeah,
of the gameplay stuff for sure, it'd be huge. I'll
that's a big one
I'll
for
talk a
me.
little
Yeah,
bit more too about the more like the logistical things for franchise mode. You mentioned the
hmm,
draft classes. Super
yeah,
excited for that, obviously. Not just to have real rookies draftable. The way we worked around that in this league was, we didn't edit any of the ratings for the guys, but we did edit the names.
yeah,
But we had the best running back that fit the profile of Saquon Barkley because we wanted to fit height and weight and overall as much as we could.
yeah,
But the closest match was a third round pick who had like 86 speed.
yeah, yeah.
And that actually ties perfectly into my next point, which is not just having real players, but having realistic draft classes. We have a massive draft overall for almost every position gets
Yeah.
tweaked, and running back's a big part
We
of
even
that.
talked about how like yeah, running backs and also we talked about like the cornerbacks being like all 6'2" and the receivers being 6'4", 92 speed,
Yeah,
like 6 or 7 players with those type of numbers. It's just
yeah, you'll
absurd
get
and
a
unrealistic.
5'11", 195-pound safety who has 78 strength, and then a 6'6", 230-pound receiver who has 67 strength.
Yeah, it makes no
So
sense.
with custom draft classes, assuming they do it right, which may or may not be a safe thing to assume, means that we can have rosters and draft classes every year that are consistent, which is awesome. And then regression as well would be awesome if they can fix that. It really bugged me what
Yeah,
they
that,
did in
that
this
takes some
game
time.
because they acknowledged that the system was broken, but they half-assed the fix. So hopefully they can acknowledge it again.
Did they even did they
What they
did
did
they
was
attempt to fix it mid-year or
no, from Madden 17 to Madden 18, where certain
okay, okay,
positions
okay.
won't go below 90 speed. That was their fix. It
Okay,
had
I see.
nothing to do with the fact that quarterbacks start losing arm strength at like 29 years old, or any of
Yeah.
the other things. So lots of stuff that we could probably have an entire podcast about, but we could at least scratch the surface on that stuff there.
Yes, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so let's get into our predictions here. And the league has really started to like these predictions and awards and stuff. We've started to give out beneficial XP boosts to winners of awards and stuff. So we are going to start off with individual player awards with MVP. And you can go first, my friend.
Well, this one's really a very unsexy pick, to be completely honest with you, and it's going to be interesting to see if any new users from the new teams in the league can actually conjure up a player with an MVP type season, which is very feasible. But to me personally, I'm still going to go with the team actually just played week one, and their halfback and superstar and Ezekiel Elliott. He actually has sustained injuries over the last 2 seasons that kind of prevented him from leading the league in rushing and reducing the amount of carries he actually had in yards and touchdowns and all that good stuff. So I think this year, for the first time, he'll be healthy throughout the season, and because of that dominating offensive line and his type of play style, running the football, which he should do for sure with that type of offensive line and his personnel, I think Zeke will get the MVP, along with the fact that in Madden, it seems like running backs have an up kind of they have the first priority for whatever reason when it comes to players in MVP races for whatever reason. But I think that's why Zeke will get the MVP award this year in season number 3 of the TFGO League.
That's a good pick. 1,400 yards last season. Got 2 touchdowns against you week 1, which, that's a good start. Tough to score on you.
Yep.
Yeah, good pick. I kind of went off the rails.
Very unsexy, but I gotta go. I gotta go with
Yeah,
that one.
so I'll make it sexy here. I am going to go with a bit of a wild card here. In his 3rd season, I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes to take home the MVP this
Ooh,
year.
Mahomes. Red Raider.
And I could have crossed his stats before I picked this, but I'm pretty sure he's been solid. So he did. He had 3,400 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 picks. So he's one of the few users in this league that doesn't throw seemingly 20 interceptions every year. So that's a plus. He has won the majority of his games since entering the league. I want to say he is
no doubt,
23 and 4 maybe since joining TFGO.
Well, pretty much. Probably. I mean, I think he may have lost. Oh, actually, that would make sense. Yeah, that would probably make sense because last year the Chiefs went 13-3. Yeah.
So good user, good player. His card's good. I think he takes a big jump, and he's got the weapons to do it as well. So that's going to be my pick for MVP.
That's a good pick. I like that. I like that.
All right. Next up is going to be running back, and I'll start off with this one. And we talked a little bit, not on the podcast, but off the podcast, about the Titans. I believe he joined a little before halfway through last season. I could be wrong about that. And I think he was pretty solid. Tough to keep track of everyone, but I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley.
I think he was as well, yeah. I think he was.
Who had a good year last year, was a candidate for the best running back in the AFC. And his reward was to see that draft overhaul. So we didn't do the draft overhaul in the first season, but we did for the second season, where we fixed how bad the running backs are, the generated running backs. So he got a boost of 3 speed, 4 or 5 agility, 3 or 4 acceleration, because it was ridiculous. He was an 80 overall superstar, but had 86 speed, 85 agility. And he's only 211 pounds. So he's going to be much more usable now for that Titans user. And I think he could have a really good...
And no more Derrick Henry, right? I think they traded Derrick Henry to L.A.
That's another really good point that I didn't even think of.
So a lot of touches right there for Saquon.
Yeah. I'm just pulling up his stats right now. So he did have 918 yards and 11 touchdowns last season, but that was only on 172 attempts. So I'm liking that.
Okay, yeah.
Saquon Barkley. Who you got?
Yeah. For me, I'm going to go with a guy that pretty much had a record-breaking year last year, nearly in Jared Butler from the Patriots, the rookie running back. And it's going to be tough again to match what he did, I think, a year ago. But I think with the fact that he plays in the AFC East and the fact that even though the Patriots have a lot of weapons in terms of passing the football, they slowed down a little bit. I think that with the loss of actually Brady still is there at 42, which is kind of crazy. But they still have him in the league kicking around. And because of regression, he's still got some nice numbers. But I think that the Patriots user has always been a little bit more running oriented than passing oriented, regardless of the fact that he has some great weapons. I think that he still has some really good blocking tight ends like Gronkowski, Jeff Swaim, Blake Bell, as much as I would hate to admit it, from Oklahoma. But Jared Butler had over 1,600 yards, 23 touchdowns last year, a ton of speed. He could even do some damage in the passing game. So I'm going to go with Jared Butler. Plus, I think, again, the AFC East, not the strongest division in the world, and I think that'll help them out a little bit in getting those numbers boosted against some opponents, and the AFC for that matter.
Good point. Yeah, a couple young running backs in that AFC there. So next up will be receiver, and I think I've got a huge sleeper pick, but I will let you go first.
For my receiver, we're going to rock with a team that actually had the number 1 overall pick, not this past draft, but the draft prior to that, with Cortland Sutton out of SMU, an 83 overall superstar development wide receiver. Now, believe it or not, we were actually all wowed by this guy's numbers. And then the Giants receiver they drafted recently came along, and then we were shocked about those numbers also.
Two of the best computer-generated
two ridiculous, basically freak athlete receivers, 6'4", 6'5" frames. I think both of them have 92 speed, but talking specifically about Cortland Sutton, they have a new coaching staff in Buffalo, new user. So kind of a fresh slate, clean slate for Buffalo and Cortland Sutton as a number 1 receiver. As a rookie, it's tough to put up the numbers and have all that hype coming in as a number 1 overall pick. I think with 91 spec catch, 92 speed, 95 acceleration, superstar development, and having a pretty good year last year, nearly broke 1,000 yards, 56 catches for 920 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hopefully, Kelvin Benjamin and Michael Crabtree allow some of the pressure to be taken off of him, and I think he'll explode for a nice season and be the best receiver in the TFGO league.
Well, I thought I was clever, but that was actually my pick as well. So pressure's on, Tomac. You got a new team, and you got 2 people picking the receiver to win the best receiver.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I think this new Bills user is going to be pretty solid. He came in. He's got a lot of experience in Madden online franchises before. And I think the Bills are going to see a pretty big jump and spark to that AFC that is a little bit thinner than the NFC, to be putting it kindly.
That's actually a really interesting point, because I played the Dolphins user in the preseason, and he was quality for sure.
Yeah.
So the AFC East and the Jets made the playoffs last year. The Patriots made the divisional round. Yeah. Maybe I should rethink Jared Butler running all over the AFC
we have
East.
3 new users.
It is what it is.
3 new users in the AFC East, because the Jets, our last Jets user, went MIA for about 10 days, and it's not okay. You need to let us know. He let Leonard Williams go and didn't sign a quarterback. Basically, headache. So the AFC East will definitely
handicap this team.
How that all plays out.
Absolutely.
So next up, we've got Defensive Player of the Year here. And I'll take this one to start. This is a guy that had a monster season last year, was a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year as well. And I'm going to go with Solomon Thomas out there in the NFC West.
Ooh, Solomon.
Yeah, he killed it. He had, pulling up his numbers right now, 54 solo tackles for a defensive tackle. That's outstanding. 21 for a loss, including, actually not including, I don't think they pair these together, 18.5 sacks. So he made about 40 tackles in the backfield last year, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And obviously, 3.5 sacks.
I can attest to that, yeah.
That's obviously a high sack number for an interior guy as well. So I'm going to give it to Solomon Thomas.
Definitely a good pick. That guy dominated my offensive line at times, running up the middle in Seattle and in San Francisco. So that was definitely... And he was personally my vote last year for Defensive Player of the Year, so that's definitely a good pick. I'm going to go with one that actually didn't have as quite a dominant season as so many of our pass rushers have a tendency to do in the TFGO League. I think we had like 6 or 7 guys with 18+ sacks. I think even my own Trey Flowers had like 18. So it's not exactly, numbers that you can always rely on. I think, again, tackles for losses is a good area to look at. I'm going to go with one that is probably, an extraordinarily talented player, but had a little bit of an off year last year in Houston, and Jadeveon Clowney, having only 8.5 sacks last year, 9 tackles for loss, 46 tackles, but in the first year of the TFGO League had nearly 16 sacks, 10 tackles for losses, and 70 tackles. So I'm going to go with Jadeveon Clowney. I think the fact that they freed up some more space for those guys to do damage on the defensive line, and acquiring actually my own Jaron Reed from Seattle as a big boy in the middle, I think will help him get some pressure on opposing teams. And again, I think that with his schedule, I think it's favorable for Jadeveon Clowney going up against those offensive tackles out in the AFC South and the rest of that conference. So I'm going to go with Jadeveon Clowney for my pick.
That's a really good pick. And the Texans switching
Defensive Player of the Year
to a 4-3 this year. I think much better fits their Whitney Merciless-less front there.
Absolutely.
Good linebacker core as well. So
trading him. Yeah, Merciless on the Patriots now, so good pick for them.
Yeah, all right, I like that pick. 97 overall too. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Beast.
Coach of the Year. Take it.
I'm gonna go.
I should probably
with
specify what
the
our standards here are. So this is like kind of the most improved user. No.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the this is the most improved. Well, this is technically the coach that you would just expect to have the best year, right? Sort of like, I guess, improvement, right?
Yeah. And I'm realizing I told you that our most improved award was for teams, but I screwed that up. We might have to improvise
Yeah,
a player for most improved,
yeah.
or just skip it. But yeah, this is a team that basically the coach did a good job. So it's maybe a lower overall team who didn't do quite as well last year, or just a big jump for a team moving forward with a new coach or a new owner.
Yeah, and yeah, that's essentially. I mean, I had another team. I guess we both did for most improved as well, but for this one in particular, the one that I had in mind was Ron Rivera, which in this league is actually the head coach for the Tennessee Titans. Now, last year the Tennessee Titans finished 6-10, and they did, I believe, have a transition of a user, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I don't know at what point that was. So, but I liked what the guy actually added to this team. I think he ended up playing well, and I think that one of the biggest factors here is the fact that not only even with a quarterback change, actually their quarterback Marcus Mariota was traded to the Broncos.
Yeah.
They bring in Luke Falk, who has some really good numbers, to be honest with you. And again, I think pressure is going to be taken off of him with Saquon, and he has Theo Riddick, Jamal Williams, so not some horrible halfbacks at all. But the receiving core is pretty strong to me. A lot of speed. Calvin Ridley and Henry Verrett out there. I think that the Titans will be just a lot better. And the big thing for me, again, is the division they play in. The AFC South has always been up in the air. Nobody's really consistent in that division. So I think this is like a perfect opportunity for Tennessee to really take the stage or take the AFC South by storm and win that division personally.
Yeah, that's a good pick. And I've got someone we talked about earlier. I've got the Bills, who we talked about, new user, really good team with those receivers, or especially Cortland Sutton. But just seems like a really solid user, and maybe my judgment's off here, but we'll see. I like the Bills, and who did you put for most improved then? Was that a team?
For most,
or did you use a player?
That actually was a team as well, and that was a team. Do you want me to name the team, or do you want me to come up with another player?
Let's just keep on this track.
All right,
here.
With the team, yeah. With the team, I went with the LA Chargers. Now, this is a team that very much similar to real life seems to finish around the 8-8 mark year in, year out. I think in year one they were 7-9, and last year they were 8-8. So it's only fair that this year they finish around 9-7, 10-6, and in the AFC that could get you the number 2 seed. So I think that's a pretty good spot right there for the LA Chargers to be improved. Again, acquiring Derrick Henry, I like what they did. They're among the most talented teams in the league. I think they're an 86 overall. That's on par with myself in Seattle, and I think that's top 5. So I think that you can only screw up the talent so frequently. I think with 2 years of experience under his belt, the Chargers will actually make the playoffs. So I'm going to go with them for most improved.
All right, Jack Barr, no pressure. Hawking's picking you to make the playoffs. Saw how that worked for the Lions last year. Yeah, so I had
didn't work out so well.
I had someone you talked about earlier, the Texans in that AFC South. Pretty redundant to say the same things you said, but basically all the same reasons you picked the Titans. I'm going to go with the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay, so
absolutely.
Let's do our ringer here. This is basically a low overall player that you think could have a surprising season. I think last year we had Jermaine Kearse for the Jets had a
Jermaine Kearse,
among the league leaders for receivers, and then out of the NFC North, a rookie D tackle that no one really noticed, 4th round pick. What's his name? Morgan Trowick had 10.5 sacks in about 11 games.
So
it's just kind of, your winner. Go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna jump back to Detroit. I'm sticking with Detroit. They made a great hype video recently. Christopher Walken, excellent scene. I love what Louis did with
Yeah, I
that.
need to check
He's
that
getting the
out.
team in a nice mental state. Yeah, it's a great
Head over
video.
to what's the
It's
channel name? Jam 34 is
it's
back, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jam 34 is, yeah, it's just Jam 34, but his username is Jam 34 is back. Great hype video. I think that plays a lot into the culture for Detroit. I think that they have a great mindset now heading on into this season. So I'm gonna go with one of their edge rushers, one of their young edge rushers, to a revamped D line. To be honest with you, in Detroit, I'm going with Jeff Holland, who is a 1 year guy out of Auburn. 82 power move, 84 speed, 80 block shed, and his numbers last year probably wouldn't wow you, but he has some nice traits in bull rush and big hitter. Ended up only having 3.5 sacks last year, but I think that he can actually produce, and a lot of these are kind of shots in the dark, but I think that with the depth and the rotation ability of Detroit, I think he can do a lot of damage, because for me personally, I take it from experience. I had a pretty good defensive line in Frank Clark and Michael Bennett, Jaron Reed, my first year in the league, and I had a Tauchu as a backup. He got 10 sacks as a guy coming off third down, edge rusher. So I'm gonna go with Jeff Holland in Detroit. I like what they've done with their D line. So that's my
Yeah,
pick.
really impressive what he's done with that D line since taking over. Because you look at what it was after he traded Ezekiel Ansah to me, he was left with scraps, really. So he goes.
Yeah, Cliff Averill.
Yeah, he signed Cliff Averill. So that D end group has been just completely overhauled. I think Anthony Zattel is the only guy left. But he's brought in David Irving, Marcus Hunt, who's received a lot of boosts in this league for his performance in Indianapolis, and then has drafted extremely well. Nick Bosa, primarily insane, 88 finesse moves. So I know for sure my guys, David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga, are going to have their work cut out for them facing Detroit twice a year. And it's honestly a big reason I didn't trade Brian Bulaga is the improved pass rush there in Detroit.
Got to keep Rodgers upright.
That's Jam 34 is the YouTube channel. That's Louis, one of my PFF coworkers, and he is making some good content for the league as well. So make sure you follow or subscribe rather on YouTube there. Okay, my pick is another one from a new user. Watched a little bit of his game, and that is our man Long Bomb. And Saints, I'm going to take Kobe Fleener. The tight ends, in this league have had pretty good numbers. And, Fleener,
absolutely.
while he's not that good in real life, is a Madden god, so to speak, with that 86 speed, 77 route run, pretty good receiver. I could see him nearing 1,000 yards and, maybe 60, 70 catches. Yeah. Maybe he gets into the end zone 7 or 8 times and has kind of a ringer season at 30 years old with a new regime there. So that's my pick. And
yeah, that makes a ton of sense also because the tight ends in this league have been pretty insane. I think O.J. Howard led the league last year. He had 79 receptions, so
Jordan
definitely
Reed.
Fleener could get involved.
Wasn't it Jordan Reed? Yeah.
Yeah, Reed may have led the league. I just know that O.J. Howard did have that much, and he had 970 yards, which is kind of absurd.
Okay. Yeah. So that's our individual awards here. We're going to move on and kind of wrap up here with just picking records and stuff. We're going to play a little game here. Over-unders. So I've selected 7 teams here, and I'm going to tell you their record from last year, and then I'm going to give you an over-under. And then you're going to pick an over-under. So we're going to start with our rival, our NFC counterpart, the Cowboys.
Wait. Let's before we start this, can we define what a rival is?
Hey, he's beat me
a rival?
once
is it somebody
without Aaron Rodgers. That's not true. He beat me in the first season.
I know, but what is? But what is a rival? What is a rival? Like, what is the definition? Is it just to beat somebody at one point and then play each other a lot, or is it just playing each other? I don't think people understand what a rival is.
Okay, we get it. We get it, Mr. 19-0.
We'll say our NFC our NFC player, another NFC player. In the Cowboys.
Anyway,
but go ahead. Continue.
One of the better users in the league for sure. 15-1 last season. Good team. I'm setting the over/under at 12.5. You just played him and beat the snot out of him. He does play me this year. I'm not sure about the rest. So 12.5. You going over or under?
Yeah. Well, the Cowboys. I mean, they play in the NFC East, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, is from the 3 teams below him in the NFC East, combined for the lowest win amount in the league. So I'm going to go with the over. I don't see how he loses more than 3 games this year, personally. He does play the Patriots, the Falcons, the Packers as 3 other playoff teams that made the playoffs last season. So there's definitely potential for error there, but I don't see anything less than 3 losses. I'm going to go with the over.
All right. Next up, we've got the Chiefs. 13-3 last year, really good user. 12 wins is what I'm setting his over/under at a potentially improved AFC with a bunch of new users.
12 wins for the Kansas City Chiefs, winning 13 last year. It's an interesting one because the AFC has had a large turnover of users. We have seen some new players enter the league for sure, and in the AFC West, I think it's been relatively stable aside from the Raiders. But 12. I'm going to give the Chiefs the over on that. I still think they can win 13. Okay. I don't think they win 11 games. I think that, again, they're still going to be pretty good in their division. And the biggest reason is because I think their roster is so well built in terms of youth that they're not going to get worse. I don't think they really lost anybody. Like, everybody's still there. So that's why I'm going to give them the over.
Okay. And then I am going to go over on the Cowboys, by the way, and I will push the Chiefs at 12. Falcons.
Okay.
12-4 last season, made the playoffs, but we got a new Saints user. Things getting interesting in that NFC South, which is probably from top to bottom the deepest division in the league.
Yeah. I'd probably agree.
11 wins, over under.
Ooh, that's probably a push, honestly. I mean,
I told Falcons, you this is gonna be a fun game.
I'm gonna go.
These are right on the line.
Ooh, the Falcons though. I know the Falcons have a tough schedule this year too. I know they play the Niners week 2. Yeah, he's got to play the Bucks are a pain in the ass as well. Cole will tell you firsthand. The Cardinals or Titans, pretty good. Didn't they split? They split last year, right? I think they split.
All right.
But man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under.
I'm going under as well.
Which is tough, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go under. It's tough. He's got a tough schedule, bro. Damn.
Ravens 9-7 last year, but took over like an 0-5 team. 13.5 wins for the Ravens is the over/under after making the Super Bowl last year. First year he's had his own control of the roster.
Yeah. He does play the NFC West, which I often tout as among the best divisions in the league, so I think that's tough. He does play the Patriots. He was first in the division, so he's going to have some tough opponents regardless. And you said 13.5, so I'm going to go with the under because I think that he still has to – I still think he's figuring out his roster completely. I think he may drop a couple games because of his roster not being quite as good as he would want it to be. I think that they're on a little bit of the lower end. They're not even as talented as the Steelers in that division. They could still win it for sure. I probably will win the division, but I'm going to go under 13.5. That's a lot.
Next up, we got the man who wanted to join us on the podcast but couldn't. Chicago Bears. Won 9 games last season. Was a much improved season. Kind of starting to figure out that Bears roster that started in turmoil. He's done a good job bringing in some youth there. 9 wins, over under. Same record as last year.
Man, this is really tough because I like what Louis done in Detroit, and yourself as the Packers have been dominant in that division as well. I'm going to go, man, this is just rough. I'm going to go with the under because Mike hasn't shown me an ultra level of confidence in himself that he can go out there and produce and win playoffs. And I think the biggest reason is he doesn't even like his quarterback in Trubisky.
Yeah.
I think he disses him every week. I'm sure Trubisky goes home after practice crying after Mike just destroys him in front of the other players. But so that's why I'm probably going to go under there.
Right.
I can't go push or over.
I'm going to... oh, man. I'll go... I'll push it. I'm pushing it at 9 wins.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that. I knew
it. You already said Chargers. You talked about them. But I wrote them down here 8-8 last year. I have it over under at 8. I'm assuming you're going over.
I'm going over. Yep.
I'm
going over.
I'm going to push it at 8.
Okay.
And then the last one here, Broncos. 2-14 last season, but a ton of moves. Brought in Marcus Mariota and did some other stuff as well that I can't think of right now. But what are you doing? Over under 4 wins.
Ooh, damn.
Lost.
The Broncos.
Week 1.
I got to be honest with you. He did lose in Chicago week 1, but that's at Soldier Field, one of the most historic stadiums in all time. So probably a little bit intimidated by that. Bright lights, big stage. I can see how they dropped that one. However, for 4 wins, I met personally with the Broncos this season in efforts to possibly work out a trade. And so I got a feel of what the culture is like in Denver just a little bit. So I'm going to go with the over because he guaranteed to me with a better quarterback that he would be playoff bound.
All right.
So I got to have faith in the Broncos. So I'm going to go with over.
Right.
I'm going to go with over. I know it's a slow start.
Next week.
Week 1. They got a tough schedule, but
I'll
go with the over.
Go over. I think he can get to 5 or 6.
Yeah.
All right. Getting a little long here, so as we get into our division picks here, let's just rip off the team name without any explanation. We've hit on almost every team in the league, I think, at this point.
We've hit on a lot. Yeah, we've hit on a lot.
So let's just go through here. Let's start in the NFC North.
NFC North, I got Packers.
Same.
Yourself.
Same. NFC South.
NFC South, I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers. As much as I would love to pick somebody else, I'm going to go with the Bucs.
I'm going to go Falcons, but I think all these teams win between 8 and 10 games. I think it's going to come down to tiebreakers.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
NFC East, Cowboys.
I'm going to go Cowboys.
And you in the NFC West.
I'm going to take myself in the NFC West as well.
All right, AFC North.
AFC North, I'm going to go Ravens. Showed a lot last year.
Although one team we didn't talk much about is Browns. I think he's on the right
Browns,
track. I don't think he wins the division, but on the right track there with Cleveland.
Yeah, very talented. I like that roster a lot.
All right, South. This is a tough one.
South, I mentioned earlier, I'm going to go with the Titans, actually. I know this is a shocker pick considering the Jags, Texans, and Colts are all trying. They're all pretty active guys, too. I'm going to go Titans, though. Yeah,
Colts,
yeah. He went 12-4, I think, or something like that. It's crazy.
I had him originally as my most improved, but then I switched it to Texans after I looked at that D-line. And I'm going to pick Texans.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
AFC East. This is an interesting one.
AFC East, AFC East is interesting because the Dolphins actually showed me a lot. I'm still going to go with the Patriots because I think top to bottom, their roster is so stacked. And with a quality user, I think he was only a few mistakes away from making it to the AFC Championship game last year. So I'm going to go Patriots.
It's almost like making the playoffs in the NFC.
Pretty much.
Just no rips on the AFC in this podcast at all. None.
Yeah, not at all.
I'm gonna take the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills. I just got a gut feeling.
Okay, the Bills, wow.
Kind of reminds me of the Ravens last season.
Okay, wow.
And then
Sam Bradford at the helm. Jeez.
AFC West.
It's ridiculous. AFC West, I'm going to go Chiefs. I think it's just hard to beat that roster and that user. I think he's really good. I think he's a good
Raiders
player.
would be a wild card. New user. We don't know how good he is.
You
know what I mean. May or may not get a wild card.
I know what you mean.
A wild wild card. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking
terms of
of
we don't
wild
know.
cards, who are your NFC wild cards?
NFC wild cards. I admit Louis' video got me pumped up, so I'm
All
going with
right, all
Detroit
right.
for one of mine. And I'm staying in the NFC West. I still got San Francisco. I think the fact that he got Dez Bryant in the offseason is a pain in the ass. And that roster is still super young. They've just developed over the last 2 years. Hopefully their user is stable. I know we've had just some kind of making fun of him for being late on stuff, but I think that they'll get it under wraps, and I think that San Fran will make the playoffs as a wild card.
All right. Yeah, I have the 49ers as well, and I have the Saints as a wild card.
Okay, I like it.
All right. AFC. I've got
AFC wild cards. I got.
You go.
What do you got? I'll go Dolphins and Chargers. I really hyped up the Chargers, and I really liked what I saw out of the Dolphins. And Sam Darnold, I think, will lead the way for a wild card spot.
All right. I'm going to go Patriots because I picked the Bills. And
okay.
Whoops, I have Texans written down here, but I picked them to win the South. So let me look. I'm gonna go.
No big. A lot of teams in the AFC you pick from.
Yeah.
It's really tough, man.
I'll take your word for it on this Dolphins guy. You said you watched him play?
Yeah, I played against him. I thought he was pretty good.
I'll take your word for it. Dolphins. We got 3 teams on the AFC East this year.
AFC
Dolphins,
East.
Bills, and Patriots.
Good stuff.
Okay, last things here. Super Bowl. Who are you taking?
Super Bowl picks. What do you want to do? Do you want me to do the honors?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or would you like to start? You want okay, you want me to start? Okay. Well, I'd like to just first introduce the idea that, or not the idea, the fact of the matter that I've had some Super Bowl experience in this league. I went to the last 2 Super Bowls. I won the last 2 Super Bowls. So this one, if I had to pick an opponent, I would love for it to be the Patriots because I'm still ultra salty about what happened in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago with the real-life Seahawks and Patriots. I would love to play the Patriots in the game of Madden and complete a three-peat against the Patriots. That would be the ultimatum for me. That would be unbelievable.
So I'll take it.
That doesn't actually make any sense, but the ultimate.
I'll take it. You're picking the Seahawks to win the Super Bowl then.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think that coaching change could be a big deal there. Chuck Pagano was really bad in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Picano, he's just a puppet, though. You know, Ty Lue, it worked for the Cavs, so we're good.
All right. Well, I'm going Packers versus Ravens. I think the Packers have made. We've
Packers, Ravens.
We've made enough moves.
We've
made enough moves.
Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
What a duo right there. What a game.
I think the steal of an addition of Thomas Davis for $2 million, week 2 of free agency, that linebacking group has been so bad for me. I'm hoping that he can get off the block and stop the run a little bit. The secondary's improved, and we finally have some speed on the outside to help hopefully neutralize that press coverage against the Seahawks. And then I'm going to take the Ravens to go back to the Super Bowl.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, that wraps it up. This was Hawking Regime joining me here. Check out his YouTube channel. It's just Hawking Regime, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Twitter
Regime,
as well is the same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
Right. That was fun. Hopefully do some more of these.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.